Election scandal erupts. Ethics allegations shake Mark Carney's campaign to the core. Mark Carney's dramatic leap from high-level economic advisor to Prime Minister of Canada was hailed by many as a refreshing turn in politics. His rise promised logic, stability, and leadership rooted in expertise. But now, just weeks after taking office and calling a snap election, that image is cracking under pressure. Ethics allegations have surfaced, and the timing couldn't be more explosive, right in the middle of his campaign to secure a Democratic mandate from Canadians. For someone once seen as untouchable, the mood has shifted, and it's shaken the very core of Carney's carefully managed message of trust and confidence. When Carney officially took over the Liberal Party after its internal vote, there was a sense of urgency in the air. He was sworn in on March 14th, and almost immediately after, he called a snap election for April 28th. The public was told this move was about renewal and direction, but many observers found the speed of it unsettling. Critics began asking, was the snap vote really about accountability, or was it a calculated effort to consolidate power before questions could be asked? That question now lingers more sharply in light of the growing controversy surrounding his campaign. In his early speeches, Carney portrayed himself as the calm alternative to the fiery rhetoric of his main opponent, Pierre Poilievre. He leaned into his experience, reminding voters of his years steering financial systems through global crises. But for all his talk of responsibility, questions began emerging. People wanted to know more about his personal business ties, his transition into politics, and whether proper checks had been followed. It wasn't long before murmurs of ethical misconduct began echoing louder, both in Ottawa and on the campaign trail. Poilievre, long critical of elites and centralized power, seized the moment. He began pressing for transparency, questioning Carney's financial disclosures and whether his past roles in the private sector might still be influencing his political decisions. The Conservative leader accused Carney of avoiding scrutiny, portraying him not as a public servant, but as someone who had parachuted into power with the help of an inner circle that owed more to boardrooms than to Canadian voters. For many, this narrative hit a nerve, and it started gaining traction with those who already felt disconnected from the political class. Behind the scenes, journalists began digging deeper. Rumors of irregularities in Carney's disclosure forms started surfacing. There were hints that some information had been omitted or filed without sufficient detail. Carney's team insisted all protocols had been followed, but the story wouldn't go away. Even if no law had been broken, the perception of privilege, secrecy, or arrogance was enough to feed the growing firestorm. Suddenly, the image of a man above politics was being replaced with that of someone now mired in it. Voters, too, began to feel the shift. At first, Carney enjoyed strong support from centrist Canadians who had grown tired of partisan battles. But now, conversations at local events and town halls were different. People were asking hard questions. They wanted to know what exactly Carney's past dealings were and how he planned to regain trust. For a man who had entered the scene with a reputation for control and calculation, he now seemed caught off guard by the emotional weight of political accountability. Supporters of Carney argue that these allegations are politically motivated, timed to damage a campaign that still enjoys significant support among urban professionals and older voters. They insist that Carney's record speaks for itself, that no official wrongdoing has been found, and that the demands being made by the opposition are an attempt to muddy the waters. But even they admit that perception matters in politics. And right now, that perception is anything but clean. The heart of the controversy rests on three areas. First, questions remain around whether Carney fully disclosed all financial interests before taking leadership. Second, critics are asking if his rapid rise bypassed internal procedures meant to ensure fairness and transparency. Third, there are concerns about ongoing links between Carney and individuals or institutions that could benefit from Liberal policy. Each of these concerns alone might be manageable. Together, they create a storm of doubt and suspicion that's proving difficult to shake off. In response to mounting pressure, Carney has promised to release a more detailed breakdown of his financial assets and past affiliations. He has called for an internal review to be made public, hoping to show that he has nothing to hide. His campaign has gone into defense mode, trying to reinforce the idea that this is a smear campaign designed to derail his leadership before it has even properly begun. But damage control in politics is never easy, and the longer the questions linger, the harder it is to regain control of the narrative. On the other side, Poilievre and his party are pressing harder. They claim Canadians deserve the full truth before casting their votes, and that leadership must be held to the highest standard. For them, this scandal is an opportunity not only to highlight Carney's weaknesses, but to double down on their own message of authenticity and economic fairness. The contrast between the polished technocrat and the grassroots challenger has never felt more stark. And it's this clash of identities between control and confrontation that now defines the campaign. What makes this moment even more complex is that Carney is unlike any Prime Minister Canada has had before. He's not a career politician. He didn't enter office through a general election, and that, in many ways, is part of the tension. Some voters are still adjusting to the idea that someone can step into the highest office with no direct electoral mandate. Others fear that the pace and style of his leadership has created blind spots, and that those blind spots are now being exposed in real time. As the election nears, the stakes couldn't be higher. The latest projections suggest a razor-thin race, with the Liberals at risk of falling short of a majority and possibly losing their grip on power altogether. Carney's hopes of securing legitimacy through a public mandate now hang in the balance. And the ethics storm that has taken over his campaign may well be the deciding factor in whether he is remembered as a reformer or as someone who overreached too soon. Whatever the outcome, this election is forcing Canadians to confront difficult questions. Can trust be rebuilt once broken? Can power be claimed without transparency? And can experience ever truly substitute for political accountability? Mark Carney's campaign began with confidence. But now, in its final and most fragile days, it is defined by one word: doubt.